Beginning in a standing foundation or a mountain pose near the back of your mat or space, allowing the hands to draw down beside the legs and the palms to face forward, crown of the head to reach long, long neutral spine. Big inhale, full exhale. Inhale to sweep the hands overhead, find a little back bend. Exhale to dive over, forward fold. Inhale to half forward fold, long knees, long spine. Exhale to forward fold, plant fingertips or hands, pause, take a couple breaths. Slow walk the hands out toward the top of the mat, finding a downward facing dog. Allowing the armpits to gently rotate in toward one another as if you're going to draw a line from armpit to armpit across the front of the chest. Fingertips nice and wide, some weight in the finger pads as well as the palms. Heels reaching in the direction of the earth. Knees long but not locked. Crown of the head reaching toward the space between the thumbs. Big inhale. Exhale, drop the hips forward and down, plank. Pause, find a few full breaths, eye the elbow pointing forward, hips settle down between shoulders and heels. Lift the tailbone again, downward facing dog, finding a little rhythm here, lifting and lowering as quickly or as slowly as you would like to move. Landing in a plank shape, pause, find a few full breaths in your plank. Lower the knees, keep the toes tucked. Lift the hips back through a tabletop shape. Draw the hips to the heels as if you're reaching for child's pose, but keep the toes tucked. Slide or walk the hands in toward the knees. Lift yourself up to a toe stand. You can support yourself with the fingertips if you like, or float the hands to thighs or heart center. Lifting the legs, find your balance in a toe stand. Getting ready to press up toward mountain pose, allowing the heels to naturally fall to the earth as you lift. Hands could rest at the hips, heart center, draw down beside you. Settling into your standing foundation near the back of your mat or space. Inhale, upward hands. Exhale, diving forward. Inhaling, half fold. Exhaling, soften to plant the hands, coming down onto fingertips or palms, walking the hands out, downward facing dog. Check in your downward facing dog, shifting anything that you need to make this more challenging, more comfortable, more appropriate for you, your body in the moment. Allowing the hips to rock forward and down until they almost touch the earth. Shoulders land over the wrist, gaze is just in front of the fingers. Send those hips up and back, straighten the knees, heels reach back, downward facing dog. Rock the heels forward and down until they almost touch the floor. Again, finding a rhythm here as quick or as slowly as you would like to move. Lowering the knees, lifting the tailbone. Bring yourself all the way down. Pause. Let the knees come all the way down to the earth. Leave the toes tucked. Press hips toward heels. Slide or walk the hands in. Getting ready to lift yourself back to a toe stand. Keeping those fingers connected as you float the legs or hands to hips or heart center. Find that balance in your toe stand. Pressing straight up to mountain or pressing up to a balancing mountain and then lowering the heels. Pressing yourself as you begin to lift, maybe keeping the heels lifted all the way up. Finding that balance at the back of your space or mat. Lowering the heels down, standing foundation, mountain pose. Inhaling, lifting the hands. Exhaling, diving forward. Inhaling, half lift. Softening to plant the hands, walking the hands out, downward facing dog. Take a moment, pause, check in. Find your shape, find your breath. Lowering the elbows down until they almost touch your mat. Turbo dog, lifting back, downward facing dog. Lowering the elbows forward and down. Turbo dog, lifting, downward facing dog, lifting and lowering a few more times. Lifting back to downward facing dog. Allow the hips to rock forward and down, shoulders land over the wrists, plank pose. Lower the knees, heels stay tucked. Press hips back toward heels, bringing yourself through that shape to slide all the way back into your toe stand. Pausing in toe stand. Find your breath. Pressing up to mountain or pressing up to a balancing mountain and then lowering the heels. Standing foundation, Tadasana at the back of your mat. Inhaling, lifting, upward hands. Exhaling, diving over, fold. Inhaling, half fold. Exhaling, softening to plant the hands, walk the hands out, find your downward facing dog. With the hips square to the mat, ground through the sole of the left foot, send your right leg back behind you. See how far back you can send that right leg, reaching through the heel and straightening the knee, but keeping that right hip square to the left. Big inhale here. And then let those hips open up a little, point the toe, take that leg in the air with movement coming from the hip joint. Draw some big circles in the air with the toes. Switch directions. Send that leg back behind you. Let those hips open up a little bit more. Big bend into the knee. Let the toes fall behind. See if you can even out weight between the two hands. Square the hips. Reach through the heel. Take a big breath in. Exhale, come forward through a three-leg plank. Knee comes towards same side elbow. Inhale, send that leg back behind you. Three-leg dog or tail of the dog. Exhale, come forward. Knee comes toward nose. Inhale, lift. Exhale comes forward, knee comes to opposite elbow. Inhale, lift. Exhale comes forward, knee comes back to opposite elbow, and we twist to the left a little, straightening that knee and reaching the foot out to the side. Bring that knee back underneath, neutral spine. Send the leg back behind. Three-leg dog or tail of the dog. Bring that foot down to meet the left. Pause in your down dog. Move, pedal, stretch, breathe in any way that feels good. And pause in your downward facing dog, keeping the hips square to the earth, rounding through the right foot. Slide that left leg back. See if you can find some height in the leg while keeping the hips square. Reach through the heel, pull through the toe. Allow those hips to open up a little, point the toe, take that leg that's in the air, draw some big circles going one direction. Circles going other direction. Send that leg back behind, open up the hips a little more. Bend the knee, let the toes fall behind. See if you can even out weight between the two hands. Extend through the heels, square through the hips. Big inhale. Exhale, forward, knee same side elbow. Inhale, lift. Exhale, come forward, knee nose. Inhale, lift. Exhale, come forward, knee opposite elbow. Inhale, lift. Exhale, come forward, knee opposite elbow again, and twisting a little to the side, straighten that knee, reach the foot out beside you, look at your foot. Bring it back underneath, neutral spine, inhale the leg long, downward facing dog, bringing that foot down to meet the right. Pause in your down dog, find a little movement, stretch, breath. Float the knees down to the mat, find a tabletop. Take a moment to stretch out, remove the wrist, or untuck the toes, send the hips to the heels, find a child's pose. Whatever shape you landed in, finding your way to a tabletop shape with the toes tucked, sending the hips to the heels, sliding or walking the hands in, lifting yourself up, finding your toe stand. Pause in your toe stand. Pressing up, letting the heels lower as you come up right into a mountain, or pressing up, keeping the heels lifted, coming through that balancing mountain. Then lowering the heels, finding your standing foundation at the back of your mat. Inhale, float the hands, upward hands pose. Exhale, diving over, forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, soften to plank the hands. Walk those legs, walk those arms all the way forward, finding your downward facing dog. Pause in that down dog for a moment. Grounding through the left leg, send the right leg back behind you. Big inhale. Exhale, step the foot forward toward the hands, bringing the right knee right over the right ankle. Left heel stays lifted, toes pointing directly toward the front of our mat. Sweep the hands up overhead, finding a high lunge or crescent pose. We're gonna add in some fire lunges. So we're gonna take a big lean forward, hinging from the hips, fingertips and crown of the head, reach for corner of wall and ceiling. We're gonna take a bigger bend in that front knee, tippy toes on the back. We're gonna launch off of that leg, come to standing on our right. Float that left leg all the way around so thigh is parallel to the floor. And then as you straighten that knee and press your heel away, draw your elbows down alongside your low ribs. Bending through that knee, letting the toes start to point back behind you, sending the arms overhead, little lean forward, launch yourself all the way back to that high lunge or crescent pose. Leaning forward, deeply bend the front, tippy toes on the back, lift, slide, float, whatever feels good. Straighten the knee, press the heel, elbows alongside low ribs. One more time, coming back, high lunge, crescent pose. Big lean forward, bring that leg all the way through. This time we'll pause here. Bring the right arm out to the right side, bring the left fingertips to the back of the left knee. With the hips staying square to the front of your space, guide that leg as far out to the side as it will comfortably come. Bring it back through center, switch hands, right fingertips are gonna come to the back of the knee, left hand comes out as our counterweight. We let this knee just come ever so slightly across center line, and then we twist our heart open to the left, letting that hand float behind us. Bringing our way back through center. Release both hands up overhead, shoulder distance between the hands, palms face one another. Little lean forward, toes reach toward the space behind you. Bring yourself all the way back to that high lunge shape. Big inhale, exhale the fingertips down to frame the front foot. Inhale, three-leg dog or tail to the dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Pause in this down dog or find a table, find a child's pose, pause in a plank. And finding stillness in a downward facing dog. Big inhale to send your left leg back. Exhale to bring that leg forward. Inhale to come up. High lunge, crescent pose, Chandrasana. Leaning forward, launching off of the front leg, tippy toes on the back. Bring that leg around to the front. Knee straightens, heel presses. Elbows draw alongside low ribs. Bring yourself back to that high lunge, crescent pose shape. Flowing forward again. Next time we come forward, we'll pause. Right fingertips to the back of the right knee, left hand out as our counterbalance. Let that leg open out to the side as far as it will go without rotating the whole pelvis with it. Bring that knee back in line with the hips. Switch your supporting hand. Let your right arm come out as a counterbalance. Bring that knee ever so slightly across the center line. Twist your heart to the right a little bit, reaching those fingertips behind you, maybe gazing past the fingers. Bringing yourself back through neutral, releasing the hands overhead, little lean forward, toes reach behind. Find your high lunge, crescent pose. Big inhale, exhale to bring the fingertips down to frame the front foot. Inhale to slide the left leg back, three-leg dog, tail of the dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Pause in your down dog, find a tabletop, or find a child's pose. Making your way to a tabletop shape with toes tucked. Pressing the hips back toward the heels, sliding the hands in. Find your toe stand. Getting ready to press up through a mountain pose, through a balancing mountain and then to mountain, eventually finding that standing foundation at the back of your mat. Inhaling, sweeping the hands high. Exhaling, diving forward. Inhaling, half forward fold. Exhaling, softening to plant the hands. This time walking the hands all the way out, finding a plank pose. Pause in this plank shape. Hips lower down between shoulders and heels. Eye of the elbows pointing forward. Finger pads nice and wide. Or lower the heels down. Eye of the elbows still pointing forward. Cervical spine and rest in line with the rest of the neck. Half plank. So plank or half plank. Take a couple more breaths. Lowering the knees to the mat if you're not already there. Untuck the toes. Lift the hips back to a tabletop shape, sliding the hands in just a little. Cat tilt the spine or side bend the spine a couple times. Bringing yourself back through tabletop. Slide the hands out a little. Let the hips rock forward and down. Half plank. Pause here or tuck the toes. Float the knees. Plank. And if knees are lifted, lowering the knees, slide yourself back to that tabletop shape. Side bend or lift and lower the spine. We're going to come forward once more, half plank or plank. We're going to move through 4 full breaths. So another option would be to move through 2 full breaths in a 3-leg plank on one side. And then switch sides to 3-leg plank, 2 breaths on your second side. Finishing up if you're doing one-sided, so you can lower the knees down. If you're not there already, slide the hands in a little bit. Side bend or cat tilt the spine. Sliding the hands out a little forward over the shoulder. Hips rock down between shoulders and heels. We're going to lower the heart down for cobra pose. Eye of the elbow stays pointing forward. Elbows reach directly behind us. As we lower heart and gaze down toward the mat, as we approach the floor, we slide the heart forward, belly finds the floor. We're drawing those elbows actively toward the space behind us. Neck is growing long up out of the shoulders. Use the low back, lift a little higher. Exhale, coming back down. Pressing those hands under the shoulders, knees stay connected. Lift through a half plank shape. Lift the hips a little, slide the hands back, tabletop. Wiggle the spine, wiggle the hips. And coming back through tabletop, sliding those hands out again. Option from your half plank, lowering chest and chin, moving through your cobra, or float the knees, find a plank shape. Eye of the elbow pointing forward, letting the heart come forward so elbows stay over the wrists. Option to lower through low plank. As we come down, we make sure we don't jut those elbows far behind us or out to the side. Shoulders come no lower than elbows, and then we press into the hands. Roll over the toes, open the heart, upward facing dog. For an upward facing dog, rolling back over the toes, lifting the hips, plank pose. Lowering the knees, lifting the hips a little, sliding the hands back, tabletop. Side bend, cat tilt. Coming forward once more, moving through a half plank, flowing towards your cobra, or through a low plank, flowing towards your upward facing dog, eventually flowing back through your tabletop and coming all the way to a child's pose. Lifting yourself back to tabletop. Tuck the toes, press the hips to the heels, slide or walk hands in, lift yourself up, find your toe stand. Pause in your toe stand, find your breath.
Getting ready to press up through a balancing mountain and then lowering the heels or letting the heels naturally float down as you lift up, finding your standing foundation at the back of your mat. Inhaling, lifting the hands overhead. This time we'll exhale, sit back and down into chair. Letting about a shoulder distance stay between the palms. Palms are facing one another. Biceps frame the ears. We try to seat those upper arm bones down into the shoulder sockets. We're trying to be neutral in the low back, and we can see our toes. If we lose any of those, we can decrease the angle in the knees a little bit. Bringing the weight forward onto the toes and the balls of the feet. Lift the heels, finding a balancing chair. Lowering the heels back down to the earth. Big inhale. Exhale, sink the hips back and down a little further as you draw hands to heart center. Inhale, up and open, upward hands pose, little back bend. Exhale, find your standing foundation, mountain pose. Take a nice juicy bend into both knees. Bring your weight over to your left leg. You're going to lift the right heel, slide those toes out in front of us a little bit. Lift that leg as you externally rotate the hip, so knee comes out to the right, ankle lifts, and we place that ankle on the left thigh. You're going to bring the hands to heart center or hips. We're going to sink those hips back and down a little further, finding a deep squat standing figure four. Getting ready to press your way slowly back up toward a mountain pose, pressing into that standing foot, eventually sliding that right leg back down, letting that foot meet the left, grounding that foot, pick up your left leg, give it a nice little shake. Coming back to your standing foundation, nice little bend into both knees, grounding through the right leg, lift the left heel, externally rotate the hip, lift that ankle, place it on the opposite thigh, bringing hands to hips or heart center, sink your hips back and down a little further. Nice deep squat, standing figure four. And getting ready to slow lift your way back up towards your mountain pose. When you get there, planting that left foot, pick up the right foot, give it a nice little shake. Standing foundation at the back of your mat. Inhaling, sweeping the hands high. Exhaling, diving over. Inhaling, half forward fold. Pause in this half forward fold. Long neutral spine, sits bones opening up and back, crown of the head reaching long. Bring both your hands over to either your left shin or your left thigh. Ground through that left leg. Lift your right heel, slide your right foot behind you, and either let your toes rest down onto the earth and just play with a little lift and lower in that leg. Or, with your spine staying long and neutral and hips staying square, maybe see what it feels like to try to lift that right leg all the way back to a warrior three, squaring the hips, pulling the toes in, reaching the heel away. Sliding or floating that right foot down to meet the left. Soften everything over into a full forward fold, dangling into the upper body. Slow rolling yourself back up towards standing. Finding long neutral spine near the back of your space. Inhaling, sweeping the hands up, upward hands pose. Exhaling, diving forward. Inhaling, half fold, pause in your half fold. Bring both hands to the right shin or right thigh. Long neutral spine, hips square to the earth. Slide those left toes back. Let them rest on the earth just behind you. Play with a little lift and lower. Or, if you're feeling solid, steady this side. You're going to keep hips square to the earth. Maybe reach that left leg back toward a warrior three. Dropping that side of the pelvis level with the right. Pulling the toes in, reaching the heel away. Slow, lower that foot back down to meet the right. Big inhale. Exhale, soften everything over, forward fold. Inhale, slow roll or ragdoll your way up towards standing. From mountain pose, inhaling the hands high, exhaling, diving forward. Inhaling, half forward fold. Exhaling, soften to plant fingertips or palms, walking those hands all the way out, finding a plank pose. Lowering knees, chest, chin, we'll come all the way down onto our bellies. And cross your forearms across one another at the top of your mat, letting the forehead rest on the forearms, finding a crocodile pose. Bending the knees, pointing the soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. Windshield wiper the legs side to side. Finding stillness, sending both of those legs long on your mat. From here, flowing into another part of your practice, or if this is the end of your practice, flowing into another part of your day.